Welcome back to the Overplayed podcast, the home of sports and sports gaming in your ear every single Thursday. We have been crushing it, Mills. We are almost to 30 episodes. We're at episode 29 today. And if you're wondering who Mills is, well, that's the gentleman who after 2 weeks is now just starting to grow back that little measly beard with a couple of patches of gray over there. My name is GoodGameBro, and I introduced Mills. Mills, how have you been?
Way more than a couple of patches of gray, by the way. I'm thinking about shaving it all off again, but leaving the soul patch, going old school Mills. I used to do frosted tips with like a Caesar cut in the front. Okay. Soul patch, yeah. Okay. There's a good picture of that on Twitter somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's gone now. I'm sure.
Yeah, someone please share that with me, and I'll PayPal you $5. That is something that no one should see, but everyone should probably see at the end of the day.
Mills that was a slick time for Mills. I was running and gunning, baby. This is what I was doing. High flying, jet flying, watch stealing, kiss wearing, what?
Don't ever do finger guns again.
Woo? I finger gun all the time I want. You guys call me Cactus Jack or Mick Foley for months. I can finger gun all I need to.
I'm vomiting.
You shouldn't vomit.
First time on the podcast.
To be fair, by the way, I saw in their timeline they put the GCX episode up in the history. If you want to go check that out, I thought it was a really great episode for us. Obviously, being able to do it during the GCX event on the space station while all that was going on, their St. Jude's marathon raised $4 million. Congratulations to GCX for that. But yeah, if you wanted to hear that episode, which was live and obviously just for GCX at the time, they did put it up on our timeline, on our podcast history. So go back and check that out. I think it was about 50 minutes long. Real easy listen, I think. I like to think that anytime I'm talking for most of the time, it's an easy listen. It's normally when you start to speak up that I hear people talk about, man, it gets really rough when that thin guy, that when Rudy Gobert tries to get Defensive Player of the Year in an actual podcast. It's very weird. I mean, I'd like to think that you're a better free throw shooter than Rudy Gobert. What do you think?
First of all, I'm one of the greatest basketball players to play. I just wouldn't play basketball for the first time in like a year. Like competitive, like not trying to just go out there and just like shoot by myself or whatever. Mm-hmm. And first of all, I'm still an incredible basketball player.
Playing against your kids is not competitive, just so we're clear.
First of all, it was 6 a.m. I went to bed at 2 a.m. Okay, after editing and working on a ton of stuff. Got up at 5:30, drove 15 minutes to go play ball. And I did stupendously good, okay?
Then you notice he's not talking about any stats, nothing like that. It's just, I did really well.
Two game winners out of the 5 games we played. I lost one, won 4. But in the first game, I stole the ball. Are you
one of the videos where they let the game manager shoot the last shot to feel good?
I can't stand you.
Is that what it was? Am I gonna see it? Don't come at me. They call me Big Fundamental. That's what they call me. I'm ready to go. I'll put it down on you. I put bodies on the ground. You ever see me? I play football when I play basketball.
Okay, buddy. I stole the ball and I'm running. And 2 years ago, this is a dunk. Easy, fantastic display. Maybe throw it off the backboard for feeling froggy. Unfortunately, when I was like running,
legs didn't hold up.
I was running like top speed, and my body couldn't process running top speed and dribbling a basketball and keeping that momentum to go in and dunk. And you ever seen like a baby deer when it's born and it tries to like walk?
I do. Normally, whenever we're in an event.
I hate you. The moment I pick up the ball to go up for the dunk, I just turned into a baby deer, and my legs were like going 7 different directions, and then I jumped up, and it was like I laid it up, but I just don't know what happened. It went like off the backboard like 100 miles an hour and like kissed the front of the rim and then just shot off. And I was like, what is happening? So I'm like trash at layups now. I can't really dunk, but
I have got a video edit that I'm going to do later that's going to show up as a GIF that you're going to hate.
And blocked and reported. Thank you very much.
Anyway, so let's move on. How have video games been treating you this week? What have you been playing? What's been going on over on Facebook.gg/GoodGameBro?
Oh, thanks for the plug. Better than my dunk/layup attempt. Actually, Warzone's been crazy, bro. Warzone has been like hacker infested. It's been really bad. Please get an anti-cheat. But yeah,
which is funny.
It's been fun.
Didn't they have a tournament recently where they had an anti-cheat active? Didn't I see that there was an anti-cheat active on one of their official tournaments recently?
No. So what I think they did, if I remember correctly, is they took all of the content creators that were playing in the World Series of Warzone,
right,
and they had them matchmake into one single match. And so they
Okay.
whitelisted them on the back end. So like they would queue up a public match, but it would say, oh, because Z-Laner and Nade Shot and Tim the Tap Man are like all queuing in. Shout out to my boy Z-Laner, by the way. Because they were all queuing in.
Hilarious what he was doing, by the way.
Z, I love Z. He's such a good dude.
I'm not allowed to talk about it. You're allowed if you want to.
I can 100% talk about it.
I can't talk about it because of my site's rules. But go look up Z-Laner in the World Series of Warzone. Some really funny stuff he went through.
100%. But yeah, they had them all sort of whitelisted, matched into a public thing. And I honestly hope Warzone does more of that, or just battle royales in general. Kill races are cool. They're content based, in my opinion. When you're doing something that is a tournament, stop having these people do kill races. There's so much with SBMM and stream sniping and people coming in to feed them kills or take kills away from them and all this stuff. Have them queue up against one another, right? I want to see that. We don't do what is the soccer tournament every year? What is it? The 4 years? What is it?
The FIFA tournament, you mean?
No, every 4 years in real soccer. World Cup. My brain is
you
going.
You couldn't remember World Cup? We're a sports podcast. You couldn't remember the word World Cup?
I don't care about soccer. I'm sorry to everyone in England and Portland and Seattle.
Okay, I'm just letting you know I'm a Germany fan. Go Germany.
My favorite soccer player is my daughter, okay? But it would be like if in the World Cup, I almost said the World Series, if in the World Cup, they're like, all right, Portugal, you're going to go match up against these dudes of the YMCA, and we're going to see how many goals you can score. Okay, now we're going to have Italy. Let's see you match up with these dudes in your YMCA, how many goals you score, and then start matching people up that way. No, have the best play the best like we do in every sport, and let's see who comes out. That's what I want to see.
I agree. It's more fun to watch them play against each other. I think that's one of the things PUBG did really well back in the day is when PUBG had tournaments, you get to watch the actual creators going against each other or the pros going against each other. Or like when they had pro-ams in PUBG, which was hilarious too. I want to see, Tim versus Nick versus, like you said, Z-Laner versus Aiden. I want to see all those guys in the same lobby and have, well, maybe not against Aiden. That's another level.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. Him and Tommy, that's different.
He hits a little different.
Yeah.
I saw actually, this is the last branch of this I'll go over. I saw a tutorial using Aiden on how he uses walls to like pre-fire and how he uses them to levy himself, like level out the playing field when it's like him against 5 people. I saw him mow down, I think 7 different people using the same wall, just going back and forth. I was like, I wish I was this good at anything in my life as Aiden is at shooters. So move up. My week has been a little bit different, but we're going to move into sports gaming with this too. I actually started playing Mario Golf on Friday. Mario Golf Super Rush. Yes. On the Switch. I will say this. There is drawback to the game. There's only 6 courses when it releases. Gameplay modes can get a little repetitive. It is golf, obviously. Sports games have a game loop. What I will say is there is a mode of that game called Battle Golf. And I played it. I haven't even played against people yet. I played it against the CPU. And it puts you in like an arena. It almost looks like a motocross arena. And you're hitting golf. And what it is you have to hit you have to get up to 3 holes. I think there's 8 or 9 holes around the arena. And powers are being thrown, bombs are being thrown, rockets, there's things all over the place. So you could be sitting there, and there's a clip of me about 50 seconds long where I started 3 feet from a hole that I would have won. I ended up away from the hole, back next to the hole, away from the hole, back next to the hole, away from the hole, back next to the hole before the computer beat me. And it was hilarious. It was one of the most fun games I've played in a very long time. So what Nintendo does with their sports game is the same thing they've always done. I hope they continue to support it. I hope more courses come out. But what's there right now, and it's a great adventure mode / campaign mode. Really fun online stuff with speed golf. Really fun battle golf. I think they've got a hit. They just need more content. I feel like that's what we're saying about a lot of games in general is they're releasing kind of light and then building upon that. So
shout out COVID.
Yeah, shout out COVID. Yeah, like I said this last week too. This is the last set of games we're letting COVID be the excuse. From now on, I want fully launched AAA games
for 2022 and on. Yeah.
Right, yeah, 2022. Yeah, starting next year. This series of release in the fall, those I expect to be a little light. I expect Madden, which we'll talk about here in a second, to be a little light, but starting to flesh out as they go. I expect NBA 2K to be a little light than what we're expecting. I think NHL will definitely be a little light. So starting in 2022, January 1st, 2022, I expect AAA games, sports and otherwise. It's time to step up. it's time to step back up. So I did bring up Madden right there. Madden 22 has still got their playtest going. Matter of fact, as you're listening to this, the playtest is probably ending. It's supposed to be through July 1st. They are starting to announce other features. And what they're talking about this week is dynamic gameplay, or dynamic game day, I'm sorry, and AI improvements. And a lot of this is next gen only, so we're clear. And a lot of people are going to be like, wow, I can't get my hands on a next gen console. I know I haven't been able to purchase one yet. And I fully get that. But at some point, you gotta S or get off the pot as a developer. And EA's doing that at this point. They're saying, listen, we understand consoles are short order. We understand not everyone has them in terms of the next gen systems, but we got to start developing for next gen. And I agree with them. They should. And seeing what Madden is doing with this dynamic gameplay, franchises evolving as they go, CPU gameplay evolving as it goes, momentum meters, there's home field advantage that are different for every single team. I was telling you before, Washington has one called unstable ground. So Washington's home field advantage, which is unique to FedEx, is that, and if you're a Washington fan, you'll understand this.
Your RG3, mute the podcast for about 2
please,
minutes.
RG3, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about this, Mr. Griffin, who's a Raven right now. If you have home field advantage with Washington, your opposing team can't turn quickly, which FedEx is famous for having really bad turf. It causes injuries. People can't juke on it. People slip and fall even when it's not raining. And every team has a unique one to them. I think Kansas City's is you start to lose some icons early on because you can't hear. I think Seattle is something similar to that. Really, really fun. I think that's a really great idea to differentiate specifically for franchise mode, but just in general, having this cool home field advantage. I think one of the things Madden has lacked in the past years is uniqueness to gameplay. And I think this actually helps that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the thing that we've always wanted, right, when you're playing sports games in general, is that if you play this team or that team or whatever team, that they play different. And I think the unfortunate thing we've had specifically in Madden for God knows how long is that, you know, the differences we'd have where, if you play the Broncos when they had Peyton Manning, he's going to audible 6,000 times, or, scrambling quarterbacks. Some games they might scramble, some games not so much. There was never really like that fear. And we started to get back into when you started getting the X factors coming in, right? You're starting to fear some defensive linemen. You're starting to fear some corners. Some quarterbacks now are crazy. Some running backs are going to, break your ankles and do different things. And that was a nice start. But this is what I think we care about, right? I don't know what Green Bay's is, but I'm assuming in Lambeau, you're going to have to deal with like maybe frigid temperatures or something. Who knows? I don't know at this point, but like going to those different places and having those experiences. Again, we talk about storytelling every single time we talk about sports games.
Yes.
That is what you care about. I want to be able to have a game that is so good and so compelling that I then want, as a content creator, obviously I want this, but even as just a fan, I want to have a game that is memorable, and I want to be like, oh my God, week 4, I played this team, and now I got to play them again in week 13. Thank God it's not at their stadium. Or like, oh my God, I barely beat them at home. Now I have to go to their stadium and deal with their fans or their field or whatever. Like, I want to have some level of like fear and just, intimidation or whatever it is. And it feels good to finally have that in Madden, or allegedly until we get our hands on it. But
obviously everything we're talking about Madden is pre-release, so things could change, things could break, who knows? All right, obviously we're in sports games, things break all the time. What I will say is everything that I've played so far, and I've played some extensive franchise hours during this play test, I've played some extensive gameplay. For the first time, I feel like teams play differently, like you said. For the first time, I feel like I have to watch out for Lamar Jackson. I feel like I have to watch out for Patrick Mahomes. I feel like I have to know where Tyreek Hill is on the field at all times. I feel like I have to know. I feel like that every time I play against the Saints, I try to play in and short against Michael Thomas. I'm looking for that slant constantly. And in any time that I ignore it, I feel like their stars beat me. And one of the things that they introduced last year in their next gen technology, or next gen stats is what they call it, is AI, like star-driven gameplay. And I feel like they've really built upon that now. And I feel like it feels better and better each year. And we're finally getting to that point that we talk about with next gen systems, that you're starting to realize power. You're starting to realize what you can do. And that's one of the reasons that this is probably next gen specific, is because you can only do some of these things with the power harnessed in these next-gen consoles. What I will say is it looks like they're upgrading everything. We haven't heard too much about MUT yet, which we never hear anything about MUT until closer to release. But it's really uplifting to see them not forget a mode. There's upgrades in yard. There's upgrades of the progression in yard. There's upgrades like when you play it, it's like it's available. There's upgrades of franchise. It looks like there's upgrades to Ultimate Team. It's really nice to see, even though we're both franchise guys and it's a mode that's been ignored for so long, that they didn't just go, okay, this is a franchise year, we're going to ignore everything else. Because as you said, as fans and creators, it's extremely important to realize that creating content isn't just one mode. There is such a huge circle when it comes to sports games. We see it in MLB right now. MLB's franchise community, no offense to the people creating that, is extremely small right now. YouTube is still good, but like Twitch, no one streams it on Twitch anymore. Some of the smaller people do, but like I don't know if anyone with a name in the MLB community right now is streaming franchise. And I'm sorry if that insults some people. It's just most franchise creators have moved on to Diamond Dynasty because there's such a good offline portion of that. Madden focusing on everything is really nice to see. Again, execution is going to be the thing. They have to execute, but seeing what they've done in this playtest and being open with this playtest, not allowing capture, but allowing people to talk about it, which is something, again, completely different from SES. SES, when there's a playtest for MLB The Show, there's no talk about it either. They say very clearly, if you talk about it, we can ban you. So it's really cool to see that Madden is a little more open with this, and it shows the confidence, honestly. It shows the confidence they have in the product. Their podcast, by the way, again, I'm going to mention their podcast one more time, Making Madden. It's been really good, man. It's been really good so far. I can't wait for the episode this week.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing what Matt is doing right now. I mean, again, we're in the airplane and we're crossing our fingers they stick the landing as we sort of approach the launch date in a month and a half ish. I guess is sort of what it is if I'm ballparking right. But this is, I mean, to your point, this is a great thing to finally see that franchise who has not done this traditionally for God knows how long to touch what looks like the vast majority of modes in that game and give them something of substance. We saw it for a long time where maybe offense would get touched heavily and then defense wouldn't. Then it was modes being touched and then the other one was not. Then we had MUT getting, upgrades and quality of life stuff for a long time with Madden getting, not really what I would call quality of life updates.
Yeah.
And to be in a spot where this is also an interesting thing. I know I saw Mole, shout out to Mole, tweet about it. And I don't know if Madden's
been very vocal. Mole's been very vocal about it. For those who don't know, it's official Mole on Twitter. He's a Madden developer. He started off in QA. He's one of those guys that worked himself up from contractor, 100%. Like QA guy to being an actual designer developer. And he's very, very vocal about his feelings and responds to a lot of people when people are constructive and respectful to him. But like you said, props to him for being outgoing on Twitter in terms of this playtest.
Yeah, Mole is one of those people. Like I'll try to put into context how talented Mole is at the game of Madden. He's good at games in general, but Madden he's so unbelievably good. Football games he's incredibly smart. I once played Mole at a community event in I don't know, sometime between 2012 to 2014. I remember it was on an NCAA game.
Didn't go well, did it?
And Mole was playing me head to head. I never played him before. Never knew who this dude was. He told me the play he was going to run, and how he was going to score on that play. Maybe it was Madden. I can't remember. It was NCAA or Madden. But he told me the play he was going to run, where he was going to catch it, like the yardage mark that he was going to catch it, and then he was going to score on that play on the next drive. And I was like, no, you're not going to do that to me. So I queue up. I'm sitting cover 4. He's talking about a D play, and I just get absolutely torched by him. And I'm like, there's no shot. So he says, I'll do it again. And I was like, no, you're not. He does it again. And I was like, I'm rage quitting this game. I'm never playing you in anything again. But Mo brought up a stat, I think, where he said 80% of
that's
games
the number. That's the
played,
exact number.
Yeah, 80% of games played on Madden are against CPU. And that is a massive portion of the audience where, again, they've been catering to 20% of the audience in through MUT or through whatever gameplay modes. But if that many people are playing as a CPU, it just shows you that for years we should have had this. And I want to applaud everyone in the community that was getting behind the Fix Madden, or what was the
Fix Madden
hashtag?
franchise. You're right.
Fix Madden franchise, the hashtag. I know that people are like, oh, I'm just, everyone on Twitter complains. Yes, Twitter can be a toxic, terrible place. When people get together behind a cause that is worth rallying for, we see all the time through social and different things across the universe. But in the gaming industry, like, people actually rallied behind and made a massive change on a massive company that has massively ignored the largest part of their consumer base. And I'm extremely proud of everyone who did that.
80% of all Madden games. I want to make sure everyone heard that correctly. This is something that was said by Madden. Mole said it too, but this is something that was stated by Madden. 80% of all games played are against the CPU. I'm going to leave this next line here. We're going to move on to some NBA playoffs. Madden's not the only game where that stat's true.
Amen.
And I know there are people in other development companies that listen to this. We know that number is accurate across multiple video games. Please remember that when you're developing for next year. That's all. All right, like I said, let's get into some NBA playoffs. It has been crazy for both the West and the East Conference Finals. First of all, let's talk about the West. Suns go up 3-1, look unbeatable, look absolutely unbeatable until Paul George decides we got a chance at 3-1. Why not? The Clippers already did it once, right? The Clippers have a chance at 3-1. Paul George comes out, has a fantastic game, ends up 3-2 with another game as we record tonight. The Suns can close it out tonight, or the Clippers can force Game 7. I kind of want to see Game 7, I'm not going to lie. Talk to me about what the Clippers have done right to get back in the series.
Yeah, firstly, I just want to point out that LeBron Ramon James is the one that said these injuries were going to be happening across the board. Never seen for like all these teams. So shout out to LeBron.
We'll talk more about the injuries for the Eastern Conference Finals, but 100%. Absolutely. So I think you have more major injuries this playoffs than I can remember. Go ahead.
Yeah. This series is a fun one. I do not want to see Game 7 because I think if we see a Game 7, there are too many young players on the Suns roster. There's going to be a lot of lemon booty happening right there. And I really don't want to see Chris Paul lose a 3-1 lead. And it's not seeing Chris Paul lose, right? It's the mantra that's going to go behind the sort of like the conversation is going to happen about Chris Paul and say like, oh my God, all he does is blow 3-1 leads and that. Like that is just going, I don't want any player to live through that, right? The Clippers are the team that were expected to lose the moment that we saw Kawhi Leonard go down. But this Phoenix Suns team has been incredible to watch. Paul George, I will admit, I was wrong. Paul George has put on an incredible display. He's had a couple of burgers out there, like a couple of games that weren't necessarily good.
Absolutely.
But the weight that he's carrying from like the social media pressure, along with the pressure of not having Kawhi Leonard, who hasn't showed up to some of the games, but is at some of the games at the same time, it's massive, right? And we aren't talking about the conversation of like, will Kawhi, will he leave or will he not leave after this season? If I'm the Clippers, I don't want Kawhi back. Kawhi is an incredible player that brings you zero from a marketing standpoint. So you don't get the added, buzz of having him there for that.
Mike Trout.
100%. And you're seeing that Paul George can definitely do this. He's a couple years out from that injury. He's been playing phenomenal. The money you're paying Kawhi, you can go get a couple of young players that could help out this team a little bit more, I think. And you'll be maybe not more from a production standpoint, but from a reliability being there, maybe from a marketing standpoint. Like I think this Clippers team could still be this good without Kawhi. But ultimately, I'm taking Suns winning the game, which is being played tonight, the night of recording. Tomorrow, when you hear this, the game will have already been decided. But I'm going Suns in 6.
Explain to me, if you will. Well, first of all, explain to me how a center that's dominated the playoffs gets 9 shots in a game. DeAndre Ayton has dominated these playoffs and got 9 shots. 9 shots. He was outshot. Now granted, third option. He was outshot by Devin Booker, obviously, and Chris Paul. Chris Paul was 8 for 19 from the field. Devin Booker was 9 from 22. He had 9. DeAndre Ayton had 10 points, 11 rebounds, and a block. I want to know why DeAndre Ayton isn't being force fed the ball against a team that's playing small. The Clippers are playing small pretty consistently. Cousins had 11 minutes, and that's literally the only true center they had playing. For the most part, you're seeing Nicholas Batum or Marcus Morris play whoever's playing center for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it had to do. I was looking at the box score to make sure I wasn't misremembering.
Yeah,
Clippers went up by 10 in the first quarter.
Yes.
They then were -3 in the second. They were +6 in the third, and then +1 in the fourth.
Right.
I know there were a couple of big runs that the Suns had to make to close the gap at some points too.
Mm-hmm.
That's my assumption is the Suns went into what we call chuck it mode, where you start getting a little bit of like a deficit and you start panicking and you're like, hey man, these twos ain't going to work. So we're going to abandon the pick and roll game. We're going to abandon, running pin downs or whatever we can for DeAndre, and we're going to start chucking it up. And if the Clippers are rebounding by committee at that same time,
yeah,
only so much that DeAndre can do. And then if you're seeing that dude just sort of struggle a little bit, not get shots, what happens when a big man doesn't get shots, doesn't get to touch the ball? They get a little frustrated.
Yep.
And then it sort of falls apart there. DeAndre Ayton is the key cog for this team. Booker is incredible. Booker's the most talented player on that roster. Chris Paul is the most cerebral, part of that team. But DeAndre Ayton is how they win a championship. No team really has a big that can run the floor, that can do the things that he does, that can be that impactful on defense, and still stretching people out a little bit here and there. Ayton is the guy that helps him win the title, and they better not forget that tonight.
And I'm going to give you one other thing that I'm going to hold on Monty Williams right now. 13 minutes is the amount of time that Campaign played in the last game.
But he's coming off an injury.
I know he's coming off an injury, but he's been fantastic. He's been specifically really good in this series before the injury. Explain to me why you're going to guy Chris Paul. And again, I have all the respect in the world for Chris Paul. He is a fantastic facilitating point guard. He had 22 and 8, right? 0 from 6 from the 3-point line. 13 minutes for Campaign, as well as he played. Matter of fact, if you don't talk about the bench, Johnson had 23 minutes. Sarge and Craig had 11 minutes apiece.
Yeah.
You're telling me Payne should be the sixth man off that bench. And I understand that Chris Paul is who got you there. Listen, you're always going to stick with Chris Paul. Chris Paul's the veteran, but Monty Williams has got to get Campaign back in the series. He's got to, especially with Chris Paul still nursing the shoulder injury. I know you can tell it still bothers him a little bit. I think Campaign needs more minutes. I'm with you that I think DeAndre Ayton is more of a key cog. I think he would be looked at more if it wasn't Chris Paul, if it was Campaign there.
I agree. I think the hesitancy probably comes around Monty knowing something about Campaign's ankle, right? When we're talking about a smaller guard with an ankle injury.
Right.
I think Monty is also probably sitting there saying, like, you got to play chess, not checkers in this, right? I think if you're playing checkers, you're probably saying, yup, Campaign, we're putting you in 25 minutes for game 5, or we're just letting you run.
Right.
I think Monty probably realized, hey, look, losing game 5 may not be the worst thing in the world. If we can get to game 6, have Campaign test the waters in that ankle, see how he feels, play him when he's a little bit more at strength in game 6, they're a little bit better off. I think I saw, though, tonight that Cam Johnson is not playing.
Cam Johnson's out tonight, correct.
So that's going to be a tough thing they got to figure out. My fear for them is that Dario Saric plays more. Saric is still a skilled offensive player. He is barbecue chicken on defense. They have been eating him alive.
I will say this also. Shout out to the gentleman that I thought I gave him a lot of crap for getting lost on that DeAndre Ayton finish. Nicholas Batum looked a lot better out there
for sure.
in game 5. And I think if you want to talk about a guy who is going to have to take control defensively with Kawhi not there, it's Batum. Batum's got to be that guy defensively, and he looked like it in game 5. If Batum can continue that and play really well defensively off the bench, the Clippers have a shot. The Clippers have a real shot here because Paul George is going to get his. They're going to get theirs, okay? They're going to get theirs on offense. I don't think the Suns are going to do anything crazy on defense to stop the Clippers. The Clippers have got to stop the Suns on the offense, and that starts with Nicholas Batum. So,
hey, last thing I'll say about the Clippers, Reggie Jackson has been playing incredibly well. I think this is the last year of his contract. I could be wrong. He either has 1 or 2 years. I can't remember.
I think so. Go ahead.
But Reggie Jackson is going to trick some NBA franchise into paying him a stupid amount of money. And I cannot wait to see who it is. Just don't be a team that I care about watching.
He's on a 1-year deal for 1.6 million at 30 years old. He's gonna get somebody to give him like a 3-year, $20 million deal, $20 million a year contract.
We're gonna see Reggie get like a 3-year, $32 million deal, and I'm going to vomit uncontrollably from laughing.
Don't worry, I had somebody try to convince me that they wanted Ben Simmons on their squad for $30 million a year. Said they wanted to trade for Ben Simmons. I said, you want a max player that can't shoot, that can't score? Yeah, that's what I want. I want a max player. I'll be like, what? I said, maybe you give me Ben Simmons for $15 million a year. I take him. Max deal, you can have him. I'm not bringing that project on my squad. Talking about projects. The Suns and the Bucks roster in the Eastern Conference Final is a project. You want to talk about injuries? Trae Young out game 4. Giannis goes down in game 4. Now, thankfully, there's no structural damage for Giannis' knee, but he's obviously questionable for game 5. Trae Young probably back game 5. I think that's the injury report I most recently saw was he's probable for game 5. But the Hawks go out and have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players in double figures. None of their I'm sorry, 2 of their players had minus plus negatives, and those guys, Okongwu played 15 minutes and Fernando played 1. What in the world happened that the Hawks decided it was time? By the way, John Collins, 4 points. 4 points. We're talking about Bogdanovich had 20, Lou Williams had 21, Capella had 15, Kevin Huerter, Terp season, by the way, 15. This team just decided, wait, we know we're missing our big scorer, but we're going to do what we do best. We're all going to be role players, and they just play their role.
I mean, this is... Game 4 is more of an indictment on Milwaukee than it is a praise for Atlanta, right? Yes, Atlanta scored 110, but you look at Milwaukee, what they had 14 from Giannis, obviously, who went out with what was an incredibly scary injury that looks to be not as bad, but still bad. Jrue Holiday had 19, their leading scorer. Middleton has 16. You need more, right?
Middleton's got to have 25 plus. Middleton has to have 25 plus a night for the Bucks.
100%. But I think the other big story, though, for Atlanta is Lou Williams, right? Lou Williams give you 21 spot starting. Fantastic. Lou Williams is, I don't mean this as a slight, so I don't want it to be interpreted as a slight. Lou Williams is a poor man's, oh my God, my brain. It used to be the 6-man Jamal Crawford. Sorry, my brain just went away.
Okay, I can see that for sure.
Yeah. Lou Williams is a poor man's Jamal Crawford. And again, not to be interpreted as a slight. Like, I just think that highly of Jamal Crawford. Lou coming out there and dropping 21 was major. Bogdanovich remembering how to shoot the basketball again is a huge thing for Atlanta. Atlanta is a much different team if Bogdanovich is out there hitting buckets like that. Because now you're telling me, okay, let's say that Trae Young comes back, which also a bone bruise, I believe, on his foot is way more painful than I think people probably are thinking if they've never had a bone bruise. But if Trae Young can come back and give you some semblance of minutes, right? Even if you get 20 from Trae, you mean to tell me Trae, Lou Williams, Bogdanovich, Kevin Huerter, those 4 dudes alone are going to be very difficult to keep up with from an outside shooting perspective. And Cam Reddish getting 23 minutes is the highlight of that for me because I need Cam Reddish to be more of an offensive contributor to take the load off what they're going to need from Trae. Cam Reddish can be a fantastic defender if in the right situation. Yep. So I love what Atlanta has, and I think we're looking at doomsday for Milwaukee unless Chris Middleton pops off for 35 tonight or for their next game.
Next game is, as you folks listen to this, it's going to be tonight at 8:30, July 1st, 8:30. I'm glad you brought up Cam Reddish because Cam Reddish has not played in 2 games in this series. As a coach's decision, mind you. The other 2 games he played 17 minutes, got 11 points, and played 23 minutes and got 12 points, was +5 last night. Cam Reddish should be playing. Cam Reddish should be the first guy off the bench for them. I don't know how you don't play this guy. He plays really well. He plays really well against Milwaukee. Like, he fits very well facing off against a guy like Middleton, facing off against a guy like I think he got guarded up against Holiday a couple times too. Dude can play perimeter defense. He can hit the 3. He can make his own shot. He's one of those guys that, like, when Huerter goes down or when Huerter sits down or Bogdanovich sits down, like that's the guy I want in. Talk to me about Lou Williams all you want, and he's a spark plug when he comes off the bench, and thankfully he was able to be a spark plug as a starter. But when Reddish comes off the bench, man, it feels different for the Hawks. It feels different. And I really hope we see more of him in game 5. We see more of him in game 5, Giannis or not. That Hawks team is dangerous. And I'm with you. I want to see a game with Giannis and Trae Young in it.
Agreed.
We might not see that in game 5. So this is going to be a really, God, can you imagine if we get to the finals and Giannis is if the Bucks are in the finals without Giannis, or the Hawks are in the finals without Trae Young? Oh.
It'll be terrible. One thing I will say too about Cam Reddish, for those that maybe don't know about Cam Reddish, me being a Duke lover, then obviously
please talk about him. Cam Reddish is one of those guys from Duke I have a ton of respect for, by the way.
Cam Reddish has probably the most versatile offensive skill set probably most versatile skill set across the board for Atlanta. Like I would venture to say, you look at what he does offensively and defensively. Honestly, his offensive skill package is probably closer to Trae Young than people maybe think. Like that dude is a walking bucket. Anthony Edwards, who most people know is the guy who was the runner-up for Rookie of the Year this year. Some people argue maybe he should have won it, but neither here nor there. Anthony Edwards had a viral interview a couple of years ago where they were at a camp. And Anthony Edwards was talking about Cam Reddish. He's like, he's that dude. He's one of the best players I've ever seen. Like, I'm paraphrasing here.
No, you're right.
If you're seeing a dude like Anthony Edwards speak that highly of Cam Reddish, and Anthony Edwards is not one who's going to just, be publicly in favor for somebody. He just very much speaks what's on his mind. It tells you how good Cam Reddish is. He's a superstar in the making. And if they can give him more minutes here in the playoffs, it will just do nothing but get him set up for next season, which could get him most improved player of the year. I think that dude has MVP caliber talent. It's just a matter of putting him in the right situation.
I think his big problem this year was like he can hit a 3, but I think he kind of fell back a little bit in his 3-point shooting. He's always going to be good defensively. Whenever you put him in, he's always going to be good defensively. And he had some injury issues this year too. So I agree with you. I think they're bringing him along a little slowly. He is playing almost 30 minutes a game in the regular season. I'd like to see him somewhere in the 26 to 28 minute area for the playoffs. I think he's that good. I think they're a little scared because again, he hasn't played 100 games yet in the NBA. This is his second year. I agree with you. I think Trae Young is obviously the face of the Hawks for the future, but I think Reddish is the number 2. I think he is going to end up being that guy on the wing with Trae Young. If they can get a serviceable big, and I don't think John Collins is that guy long term. I don't think Capella is that guy long term either. Honestly, if they can get a big like a DeAndre Ayton, or I'm trying to think about who would be open. I'm talking about like style. You get a Bam Adebayo.
Kongwu could be that guy. Maybe not as good as Ayton, but a Kongwu could be a guy 4 to 5 years from now that we're like, yo, he's a good, not great guy to run that floor for them.
I think 4 to 5 years might be outside of their window, honestly. As young as Reddish is, as young as Trae Young is, I think the team they have around them, I think a Kongwu, I agree with you. I think he's very good. I think he's way more of a project than anybody else with that squad. I think if they can get a third big, even a 4 that can play a little bigger inside, I think this team is really, really close. And it's funny we're talking about this, like this team's really close as an Eastern Conference Finals team. I think they're opening eyes this year, and I don't think it's a fluke. I think they're opening eyes because they have that squad, and I think Cam Reddish is one of those keys for that squad. So
shout out Nate McMillan, man. He's turning that team around,
dude. Mid-season too. That team, what was it? 16-20, right?
They were sub 500. Yep.
Yeah, they were sub 500 team halfway through the season. Nate McMillan turned that team around. He has got that team playing about as well as they can. For anyone that plays minutes there. Again, we talked about this. They're a bunch of role players. It's Trae Young and a bunch of role players right now. We want to talk about Reddish. Reddish isn't getting those kind of minutes normally. But they're playing their roles, and they're playing their roles about as smooth as anyone not named the Phoenix Suns. So, I want to talk about NHL Stanley Cup. It's going on right now. Lightning ran away with game 1, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately, as a Cavs fan, kind of hurts my soul after they ran the Isles off the ice. I will say this, game 2 coming up tonight. It's imperative for Montreal to win this. Really funny that Montreal's getting home ice games in the Stanley Cup and in all the playoffs when, the whole COVID protocol said, well, we're not going to travel outside of Canada, but we'll talk about that. Obviously, they have like a little condition they can do. But anyway, Carey Price is the goalie for the Montreal Canadiens. He has been carrying, pun not intended, this squad throughout the playoffs. His defense let him down. 2 rush goals in game 1. Carey Price has got to be standing on his head for them to have a chance in this Stanley Cup playoffs. Lightning are there for the second back-to-back times. The Lightning are a super powered in terms of offensive squad. They're very good defensively. Montreal tries to slow teams down, tries to play that awful hockey. I don't know if you've seen this. You've seen the trap in hockey recently, right? GGB, where they jump. The goal of it is just, hey, we don't have all these athletes, so we're going to slow people down in the neutral zone. That's what Montreal does. So I can't stand watching that kind of hockey, but Montreal did not do that well in game 1. Looking forward to game 2. I think Montreal comes back. I think they, again, stand behind Carey Price. I really think this is going to be a 5 or 6, or let's call it 6 games. I think this is going to be 6 games. I think Lightning are going to end up winning this unless Carey Price gets hot. But again, it's the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't know if there's we're in a really great time where we have the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. We're talking about camps opening up for the NFL. Baseball is about to hit their All-Star break. One of the best times in sports. I just don't want people to forget that the NHL playoffs are going, and some of the most fun you will watch sports-wise. And for the people here that knock on us for not talking hockey, don't think I can't talk to you about Brendan Gallagher playing Pick Your Fighter on Twitter. Brendan Gallagher getting his head smashed in on the ice, getting right back out there. You don't see any NBA player getting their head smashed in like that, putting their mask on, looking like Bat LeBron. Come on. That's not the way it works. Hockey players bleed and get back out there. Think I don't know? Come on. Go. You know what? You'll never hear me say this again. Go Montreal. Go Montreal. Yeah, I'm cheering for a Canadian team.
Okay, I'm rooting for the Lightning because I only know one player. It's Steven Stamkos. So that's all I know.
I can deal with that. But Brendan Gallagher, brother,
smashes a pumpkin. A watermelon.
Brother, I don't know if you saw that clip. He literally went down face first on the ice and was bleeding from his head. Came right back out. Just started playing again.
Built different.
That's welcome to hockey, brother. Welcome to hockey. Okay, so big thing as you folks listen to this, right? Huge, massive NCAA news. It's going to affect everything we know in the NCAA, including video games. Talk to me about the new student athlete. What do we call it? Wage law? What's going on?
So I know there's been pressure from the NCAA because multiple states. I think California's been one. I think a couple.
Texas was one of them. I think.
Yeah. Texas was one. A couple more, more the southern SEC area have explored it heavily too. But there's been a handful of states that basically said hey, we're going to allow or pass legislation soon, or have already passed, to allow players to monetize essentially their name and likeness. And again, this has been a hotbed topic for probably close to a decade. It's been a hotbed topic for a long time, but it's gotten more and more national spotlight over the past decade. Now, I think as of Thursday, so the day that you listen to this podcast, starting July 1st, every NCAA athlete in the country will be able to make money from endorsements and through a variety of other ventures, as they're sort of describing it now. This to me is a massive shift, but also with the NCAA announcing it, I don't necessarily love it. If I remember correctly, there's sort of a cap on what players can essentially make, if I do recall. And I don't necessarily love that. And here's the quote that necessarily throws me off a little bit, from Mark Emmert, who is top 2 worst human being in the USA, and he's a not
puppet.
too.
He's a puppet, is what he is.
So he's saying, with a variety of state laws adopted across the country, we will continue to work with Congress to develop a solution that will provide clarity on a national level. The current environment, both legal and legislative, prevents us from providing a more permanent solution and the level of detail student athletes deserve. Mark Emmert and the NCAA are about one thing and one thing only: lining their pockets. So
absolutely,
I don't believe they've essentially announced the full slate of how this will be going forward, or the different pieces within it. But I do not trust the NCAA, and it scares me. I know there's going to be things that I think they said athletes are not going to be able to sort of, promote alcohol or cigarettes or weed or gambling. So,
a lot of get paid to play. and cannot be paid to play, which is the one part of this that I agree with. The one part I agree with is you can't be paid to actually play on the field. It has to be an endorsement. It has to be like an endorsement, because one of the things people were worried about is like Oregon, like Nike paying players to come to Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that players should still be compensated outside of their scholarships for that. I think there needs to be.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But it needs to be uniform for me. When it comes to playing on the field, if you're talking about a scholarship and you want to pay outside of the scholarship, I agree with you, because they're still putting their bodies through this. But I think it needs to be uniform on the field, and then let endorsements off the field be different.
100%. But it just needs to be decided by. I don't trust the NCAA to set that wage. Is all I'm saying.
Absolutely not.
The hard part too is like, okay, what do you pay offensive lineman 3 versus quarterback 1, right? Like that. I think that's the hard part, is like figuring out what that is. But even these schools came out and said like, hey, we're going to pay kids $40,000 a year, right? Like if you're a college athlete, like $40,000 a year is like what you're essentially making. Like I don't know what that number would essentially be.
Right.
It's something to allow these kids to like earn money, have money of their own, and then go get endorsements on top of that. I'm totally here for that. But yeah, I agree. You can't have, boosters coming in and be like, all right, Arch Manning is going to be making $2 million, when he comes in as a freshman, for example, if he goes to Tennessee versus, Ole Miss or whatever that may be. So
the other thing this also provides is individual schools can set their own standards. So as long as they abide by NIL law in each state, it also said that this will allow schools and conferences may choose to adopt their own additional policies to this, which is something when the Supreme Court ruling came down a couple of weeks ago, they said the threat was if the Supreme Court didn't step in, that they would be forced to adopt conference and school policies, which Emmerich an awful human being, but he's working for the awful human beings in each conference and in each school that don't want to pay either. So imagine if all these schools get together and collude and say, okay, that's fine. No, we'll just do it all on the school level. I do believe the Supreme Court needs to step in at some point, but they need to step in and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So for sure. But I mean, the bright side of this is we are going to now likely see the go ahead for, it's not NCAA, but college football.
EA Sports, college football, yeah.
I would imagine other companies are now going to be heavily exploring that, right? Because like it makes total sense to be able to have that. I'm also intrigued to see what endorsements we start seeing for college athletes, like major college athletes, in video games that maybe that aren't sports related, right?
Right.
I could see a company like Ubisoft, right? Like they've been pretty progressive in some of their influencer marketing. Like I could see them leveraging some top college athletes. I could see EA, I'm sure 2K, I'm sure everybody out there sort of going to be exploring that.
Oh yeah, you can imagine with the card collecting modes, having college players being it'll be an immediate allowance of saying, hey, look, these are the top college players. Let's put them in our game.
Yep. So it's a massive shift.
Yeah, especially for drafting and stuff like that. So like I think the way MLB gets around it right now is because they're still pros. Like the minor leaguers are still pros, so they can put the minor leaguers in because it's a likeness and not necessarily putting them in the game. In this case, like if EA wanted to, let's use EA right now. If EA wanted to, they could put draft picks in. They could literally pay all of the top 300 players in the country and say, all right, here's real draft classes for Madden. Or NBA could do the same thing. NBA is going to pay what, 100 players? That's all they'd have to pay is the top 100 players in the entire country, and say, okay, here you go. NBA now has real draft classes. Plus, we're gonna have Ultimate Team cards or My Team cards or whatever cards you want to put in for like future pick or top draft pick or lottery cards in My Team. There you go. I mean, like they have so many options video game wise to where this can impact. Plus, like you said, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, they're looking already. This now becomes Nike. Nike's going to start signing high school. Well, they can't sign high school kids, but like they're going to be talking to high school kids immediately. Now, I mean, they already do it, but now they can do it legally and
Yeah.
get them and get ready to pay players to go when they're going to college.
You know, an interesting thing I didn't think about until now, it sucks for him, even though it's worked out for him at the same time, is this, I can't help but think about Destroying, right? For those who don't know who Destroying is or was, or he's still a content creator, but Destroying was a pretty good kicker for UCF. And he was a YouTuber that was fast on the rise. And basically, the NCAA told him he either had to delete his YouTube channel, not stop making it, but delete his YouTube channel if he still wanted to be a kicker, or he had to give up being a scholarship kicker. I think it was elite scholarship. I don't even know if they said he couldn't play, but it was a hairy situation for him essentially at that point. He ended up choosing YouTube. It's worked out tremendously for him. He's, I'm sure, making insane, revenue now to support himself, and he's blown up even more so because that obviously helped him to a degree. But this now means that kids that are, making YouTube channels, right? Like, they can now monetize that without fear of having that taken down or having it taken away from them. Jason Tatum, who obviously plays for the Celtics now in the NBA, he famously has a YouTube channel that'll probably get recommended to some people if you follow sports gaming content on YouTube, where it's like him teaching himself how to tie a tie and like doing it for a school project or like a short movie he's done. His YouTube channel, I think, has like 60K subs, and it's 2 videos that were probably shot on an iPhone or like an iMac from 8 or 9 years ago.
Right.
Those are things that even could have hit him had the NCAA looked into it enough. So players can now monetize their own likeness. They can make YouTube channels. They can promote TikTok, IG as these paid endorsement deals come through. It's a monumental change, and I'm just extremely happy to see it.
It's funny you mentioned that, not to break off too much, but it sort of reminds me of what happened with WWE this past year. Is that a lot of WWE superstars were not allowed to continue their Twitch channels or continue their YouTube or continue what they were doing because WWE said your likeness belongs to us. So what a lot of these wrestlers started doing was, like Adam Cole doesn't go on Twitch as Adam Cole. He goes on as Chugs. And he doesn't talk wrestling at all. Xavier Woods is another big one who already had Up, Up, Down, Down, but that's authorized through WWE. I think the most notable one was Paige, who was wrestling, or was not even wrestling, was still under contract, was told very specifically, you cannot have a Twitch channel. So I think she changed her Twitch channel to Soraya Knight, her legal name. I believe it's her legal name. Her legal name, and literally cannot talk about her profession on her Twitch channel because her likeness and all of that is owned by WWE. NCAA is pulling the same power play with this. They're saying your likeness technically does not belong to you until you're out of college because you are a amateur athlete, and we don't want money mucking up the system. It doesn't matter mucking up the system. I mean, as long as you're making it right, as long as it's going into your pockets, you're fine with it. Puppet Emirate. Dude, every time that dude speaks into any microphone, nothing good has ever come of it. Literally nothing's ever going to come of it. It's just awful. You know what's good when someone speaks into the microphone, though? You know what is the best when someone speaks into the microphone? Our Lord UFC Savior, Conor McGregor. And we're going to get a good one next. We're going to get a good one next week.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I mean, look, Conor McGregor fighting, 85% of what he says on a microphone is usually pretty entertaining. The other 15% is pretty offensive. But this card is going to be an interesting one. So I'm looking at the card for 264. You've got Poirier versus McGregor, which is what majority of people are caring about. Right. Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Thompson is going to be fun. Burns and Wonder Boy is going to be a very fun fight. I'm excited about that.
This is not just the main event. This is a good card.
100%. Heavyweight, NFL fans will remember this. You've got Ty Tuvasa, I'm probably butchering his name, versus Greg Hardy, which is what most people are going to be interested in seeing how he does. Irene Adona versus Yana Kunitskaya. I'm probably butchering that, I'm going to be honest. Sean O'Malley versus Luis Smolka. Wait, did Smolka pull out, or was it the other guy that pulled out?
No, the other guy pulled out.
Okay.
I think.
This is a short fight. So O'Malley, I think, is must-watch TV anyways, any single time. And now that he's fighting a guy on short, I'm excited to see how that sort of goes for him at that point.
something
Preliminary also has Carlos Condit fighting, one of my favorite UFC fighters of all time. So if you're going to watch the prelims, watch him.
Condit's a fun fight to watch, no matter who he's against.
Yep.
I will say this. There was something that came out this morning by one of McGregor's ex-teammates, Artem Lobov. And he said sort of what I think you and I have talked about this. I think everybody has mentioned this about Conor McGregor multiple times in the past. He said there are times where Conor wasn't focused and was not giving his all during training. I mean, it's Conor McGregor. He does a lot of talking, but he has his iron in a lot of fires. And one of the times Artem Lobov said this, he said, this happened during the last Poirier fight. He said he obviously was looking past Poirier. I think a lot of us were thinking for sure McGregor was gonna walk Poirier dry. And I do believe that Conor McGregor still has it in him. I think he is still a terrific fighter and can be when committed. I think McGregor knows how important this fight is going to be. If he loses this fight, I believe that the only fights that are going to make him money are going to be, circus shows.
Well, Diaz fights that would pull money for him, but yeah.
But I mean, it's McGregor Diaz not because of how good of fighters they are. It's just they're based on name right now. I do believe, and again, McGregor's not talking. McGregor's not talking right now. I wish he would because it makes the fights more fun for us. I feel like he knows. He has to know. He has to know how important this win over Poirier is going to be, not only for him, but for his. We talked about McGregor's legacy before. For his legacy, okay. He wants to be known as the best UFC fighter ever. Right now, he's known as the biggest mouth. He has to beat Poirier, and he's probably going to do another big fight to really cement that. I will give Conor McGregor credit for bringing UFC into the limelight. I think Conor McGregor is the reason UFC is as big as it is right now. I'm not going to say solely, but he is the tip of the spear when it comes to bringing main event attention to UFC. UFC is its own machine now. But for that to continue and for people to care after this fight, he has to win. I'm picking McGregor. I think this goes the distance. I think McGregor wins. I don't think he's knocking Poirier out. But I think McGregor is beating him on this fight because I think he knows how important this fight is to him.
So let's look at McGregor's last couple of fights, right? We go back to March 5th.
Please don't. His history is not, his recent history is not good.
But if we go to March 5th, 2016, right? So we're talking 5 years, a little over 5 years now. That's the loss to Diaz, right? The loss to Nate Diaz, which was unreal fight, right? That's a submission round 2. People were like, what? They have the rematch. McGregor wins that one in August. They then see him fight Eddie Alvarez, who he makes very quick work of in a round 2.
Tomato can.
And we see 2018 is the Khabib fight where we all know what happened. The submission, the sort of like no mas mention for him.
Yeah.
No fights in 2019. I think that was during the fight ordeal or suspension. I can't quite remember.
There was some good, well, with him in the tour bus and everything, yeah.
Yeah. So then we get into 2020, right? We see him fight Donald Cerrone, who, again, Cerrone's about 704 years old. He's a day or so away from being 719.
Cerrone 10 years before that, maybe it's a fight.
100%. Yeah. But that one, no. Destroys him. Now, here we are in 2021. We see him lose to Poirier. Then we have the rematch coming up. I don't think Conor can just win this fight. Right. I think we need Conor to knock out Poirier. I don't think it's he wins, he keeps the legacy or whatever. If this goes to 5 rounds, I think we see a lot of talk about like, oh, it's, debatable.
It doesn't happen anymore.
Conor has to knock him out. And that is a really difficult dude to knock out. Right. And to keep in mind, Conor didn't just lose the fight against Poirier. He was TKO'd by him. This has to be a knockout for McGregor to get the circus going. Conor McGregor works off the circus. He wants that legacy. This has to be a knockout. It cannot be a win by decision.
Can he knock him out? You've seen his fights. You just talked about his fights. Can McGregor knock him out? I question that seriously. I think all the odds are against. I think McGregor, I agree with you that McGregor has to do something. Like he's got to TKO him. McGregor submitting somebody. He's got to submit. He's going to submit him something. I don't think McGregor can do that at this point. I think if McGregor goes for any kind of knockout, I think Poirier is going to lay him out.
Here's the thing. Poirier has been fighting since I had to go back and check. He's been fighting since 2012. No, 2011.
That's about when the first McGregor fight was.
So 2011 is how long he's been fighting. I'm trying to see when he first fought McGregor. Swanson, 2014. 2014 is when he first fought McGregor, and then McGregor obviously beat him in the first round. I think McGregor can still knock him out. I think it's a round 4, maybe early round 5 thing. They're both 32 years old. They both have fought. McGregor's almost at fight 30. Poirier's at fight 34 professional is what he'll be at here. Can it happen? Yes. Is it likely to happen? No. But at 155, 30 fights roughly underneath your belt for both of these guys, I think you need to see a knockout. This fight in particular, going to the distance, does not do either of them really any justice here. Because there's always going to be I saw the fight this way, or they shouldn't have won because of X, Y, or Z. You need a complete dominant performance by one of these guys who just cement it, right? Either Poirier dominates and we don't see really McGregor outside of a boxing ring, or McGregor wins and the mic trash talk after will be swift. It will be incredible. It will also probably give some shout outs to Dustin for, he's been a lot more humble. But we will see vintage McGregor if he can knock him out. Not if it's a straight decision.
I'm flip flopping. Based on if McGregor tries to go for a knockout, Poirier's going to lay him out. McGregor's not knocking him out. If McGregor becomes aggressive against Poirier, he's playing in Poirier's hands. But listen, I'm not saying the lightweight division is as good as it's ever been. Okay, it's not. But Poirier's the best lightweight in the world right now.
How many times have we said this is the best whatever? I get
that. And the only reason he doesn't have a title match is because he chose to show McGregor again, right? The money's there. Obviously, he's probably gonna get more money than McGregor fight than he will the title fight anyway. I don't. If McGregor's aggressive in this fight, he's getting knocked out. I think McGregor has to do what he does best. I think he just has to be a good technical fight. He's got a Floyd Mayweather. Maybe I'm wrong, but since Habib is officially retired, but still the pending talks, isn't the winner of this fight getting the belt, or am I incorrect in that? I know the winner of this fight is getting a shot. I don't think he's getting the belt.
No, but Khabib holds the belt. He's the lightweight champ, but he retired. So I think the belt goes to whoever wins this.
No. Oliveira Chandler is the vacant title fight. And Oliveira has the title, yeah. Oliveira beat Chandler by knockout. Oliveira is the lightweight champion. I'm telling you right now, I think Poirier beats Oliveira. And the only reason the Oliveira fight happened is because Poirier is fighting McGregor. So if Poirier beats McGregor here, he's going to fight Oliveira. If McGregor wins here, he's got a legitimate chance. I mean, he got a legitimate, say in going against Oliveira.
That's a good point.
That's what I'm saying. Poirier right now, if you're talking about lightweights that are active and still fighting, he's already beat McGregor once. Poirier's the best lightweight in the world right now. Okay. I think McGregor's got a shot if he becomes a technical fighter and plays his cards right. If he's aggressive against Poirier, he's getting knocked out. He's not. He's going
to be methodical.
That's what he has to be. He has to be that.
But we know one thing about Conor. He just takes one punch.
You're not wrong. He can do it. I guess. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Official prediction. What's your official prediction?
My official prediction is, I hate to say this because I love Conor so much. I think Poirier knocks him out. I think you're right. I think McGregor has a pressure on him. I think McGregor knows he has to win this fight big. I hope he understands that all he has to do is win the fight and move on. If he can get back to the title, I think that's what McGregor should look at. I think McGregor should look at the fights as, I think he should go Poirier, Oliveira, Diaz. I think the Diaz fight, put the belt on there with it. I think that adds what you need for that McGregor Diaz rematch. Yeah. I think that should be Conor's focus I think Connor's focus is, like you said, now that we're talking about it, I think he thinks he's got an axe to grind. I think he's gonna think that Poirier beat me in the first. This isn't gonna happen. I'm showing who I am.
I think he's more humble now. I think he is.
I hope he is.
He has multiple kids now. He sold his Proper 12 business. He's been focusing more.
He's not talking as much either. So as I said, he's definitely not talking much. Yeah.
I'm saying McGregor round 4, left-handed knockout.
I think Poirier gets him, and I think Poirier gets him. I'm gonna go Poirier third. I think McGregor. He didn't look great in the Poirier fight before. He hasn't looked good in a while. I think Poirier knocks him out, and I think it's earlier in the 4th. I don't think I want it to go. I want it to go the distance because it means McGregor wins. My ideal situation is what I just described. Yeah. McGregor goes, Poirier destroys Oliveira, gets Diaz for the belt, because we all want to see McGregor Diaz. And honestly, if McGregor loses his fight, if we get McGregor Diaz, it's just a money grab.
You're not wrong. Just like you on this podcast, a money grab.
Mills. Come on, I got a good salary going here. Don't tell raredrop what I'm stealing here.
True, my bad. Good point. Sorry, raredrop. Mills, great show today. A lot of cool stuff we talked about with Madden. The NBA playoff drama is going crazy. I think Suns do close it out in Game 6. I think Milwaukee's going to struggle, probably lose that series. Stanley Cup, NCAA, there's a lot we're covering on, and your prediction on UFC 264 being incorrect. Great show. Did you have a prediction, by the way, on Milwaukee, Atlanta?
I think Atlanta wins the series. I think the Clippers force Game 7. I want to see if it goes to Game 7 before we predict Game 7, but obviously Game 7 will be over by the next time we record. My prediction is that series goes 7. The Suns win in 7, and then we get Suns Hawks as the finals. And we'll talk about that next. We'll know the finals by next podcast. So
yeah, and hope everyone's healthy at that point. Don't forget, if you haven't already, leave us a 5-star review. Helps out a ton. We'll try to read those soon as Apple or whoever pushes those through. We haven't really seen as many, but those 50 plus of you that have left them, we appreciate you a ton. My name is GoodGameBro.
Enjoy your July 4th, by the way. Yeah. If you're listening to this, enjoy your July 4th. One of the first ones we are going to have with some type of normalcy. Please be careful out there.
Don't be Jason Pierre-Paul. Be extremely careful with those things. I'm GoodGameBro, the man with the beard that's slightly coming back as Mills. Be safe, be smart, tell somebody you love them. We'll catch you on the next one.
Ciao.